Topics not reasonably anticipated within 48 hours. I do have a 48-hour issue, and that is unfortunately, our vice chair of this committee, Ralph Dormitzer, has resigned. He let me know yesterday that he is no longer going to be available to participate on the committee. So it's not on the agenda today for voting, but I will need a vice chair to fulfill Ralph's responsibilities or duties, which we can talk about later. I know everyone's jumping at the bit to be the vice chair here. Really, it's just filling in for the chair when the chair is not available, and kind of just moving this whole committee along a little faster than what we've been going for now, and just having a little bit more input into the agenda, etc. So if anyone is wants to be a little bit more involved with the committee, by all means, let me know in advance or prior to our next meeting, and we'll put it on the agenda for a vote for our next meeting. So we are down to 7 members now. All right, the next item of business is the approval of the July. Any other reasonably anticipated topics not reasonably anticipated? Great. Okay. Approval of the July 11th minutes. I didn't have any issues with them. Anybody have any comments to the July 11th minutes? Having not heard any, I make a motion to approve the minutes of July 11th. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Second.
Second by, looks like Paul Grady beat to the punch Julie. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Any opposed? Abstentions? You can tell I want to move this meeting along today. The recap of next item of business, the recap of the July 25th Select Board meeting. So, Paul, if I just want to bring everybody up to speed on what happened at the July 25th meeting, and then at the August 8th meeting. It looks like Brian is here as well. For the record, Carol's make a note that Brian has joined us. So at the August 25th meeting, the select board took a vote, listened to the Elm Street plan, and voted to pave the road as is, Elm Street, and not making any other recommendations to pave the road as is, but to also with a task for Brian and the DPW to come back to the August 8th meeting with some options on what could actually happen with the sidewalks. There were a lot of residents had a lot of comments. There was not a lot of support for Mike Sidina's plan from the residents. Nobody wanted to lose parking. Nobody wanted to lose their front lawn, et cetera, et cetera. Long story short, the August 8th meeting of the select board was last week. Given all of the options, and Brian was there, presented option 1, option 2, option 3. The select board went with option 2, which was to repave Elm Street as is and to repave all of the existing sidewalks as is without widening the sidewalks, without taking into consideration Mike Sidina's plan. Personally, I'm happy with that. I think the roadway needed to be done, and it will be getting done. So that's that. Elm Street, we can, for the time being, for a little while now, we can put it behind us. It will be paved as is, and all of the sidewalks will be paved as is. They are all ADA compliant, etc. Any comment to that, Brian or Paul, before we move on?
No, I think you summed it up perfectly. That's why we went with option 2, is just get it done, get it behind us. Let's move on. And if the grant comes through, did say in deference to a few proponents, and that we would revisit it, but that grant's a big if. We've been turned down for grants before, so I'll leave it at that. So at least Elm Street will be done this year.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. And again, I think there was overwhelming support that the road needs to be paved by the town, the DPW, emergency vehicles, and Chief Dockery from the fire department was also in strong support of just getting the road paved, etc. So there was overwhelming support, and it's on the docket now. And so The next item of business, and Brian, I see you took yourself off mute. I want to throw it over to you just to give us a quick update on the timing of all of the roadways that are in front of us as we're getting into crunch time here, August 15th for paving. If you just, could you mind giving us a little update on the timing of some of the roads and sidewalks that are on our list to be paved in the next couple months here, please?
Sure. So Elm Street, you just talked about. Elm Street will be done along with Margin Street and the piece of Atlantic Ave that goes to Whitehead Road. Along with, while they're in town, they will also be doing Smith Place and a little piece of Cushing that goes from Smith to Pleasant Street. And that's basically what's going to be done in the next 2 months. We have work going on at Pond Street. We did finally receive funding, the check from National Grid, which is a good thing, for Beechwood and Pond Street. And it was discovered on Pond Street that the service, some of the water service connections are severely corroded, kind of beyond what their lifespan should have been. So they did some investigations. There's about 14 that needs to be replaced. So starting this Wednesday, we're going to be digging those and replacing those prior to paving Pond Street. So that's probably, that water service work goes from basically Clay Spring up to Woodland Road by the entrance to the high school, that the driveway that goes up to Alumni. That'll be done over the next month. Hopefully the majority of it done before school starts. And then after that, that opens that up to paving. But I think likely we'll let it sit for the winter and then pave Pond and Beechwood together in the spring, along with Mill Lane. So that's kind of on the docket now. And we need to kind of revise estimates on South Main Street and put that on our hit list for the short term, you know, with all the decisions that need to be made with sewer or no sewer. I think it's going to have to be done regardless in the next, 1 to 2 years.
Right. And so just so Pond Street and Beechwood would be getting paved from basically it's there's no sidewalk involved with that. Is there any sidewalk involved with the Beechwood project, or is it just a roadway curb? Not, well, I guess I shouldn't say curb, side to side.
Yeah, it's curb to curb. So I should qualify, the money we got from Grid was just for the curb to curb pavement, but the sidewalk will be done when we are out there paving, and we're going to use our road funding money to do that.
On for Beechwood.
And so we have the width for ADA compliance on Beechwood, and it's pretty much bituminous with a grass strip, nothing super fancy or expensive. There's probably one section that needs to get widened and the stretch that we're going to be paving. And that's kind of cutting back into, might be a little bit of ledge and maybe a little bit of, landscaping.
So would they actually be curbing there, or would just be kind of hot top, if you will, asphalt for a sidewalk?
It'll be asphalt sidewalk and grass strip, and where applicable, it'll be a bituminous, curb, like a kind of a Cape Cod berm,
Yeah.
you call it.
But not the concrete gray true like 4-piece sidewalk.
No granite, no concrete. It's all bituminous, black asphalt.
Right. Okay.
Brian, is that like the slope thing? Sorry, like the black asphalt slope. There might be some of that on Sawyer Pond too, but it just seems like super easy for a car to drive up on that. Am I thinking of the right thing, or is it, I have the wrong visual?
So yeah, it's a sloped, the Cape Cod berm is a sloped curb, and it is easy to drive up on. but it's also, there's parking and some frontage along Beechwood Street. So it's not a, it's not a vertical curb, with a vertical face. It's basically got a slant that you could drive.
All right. And that's just more cost effective than like a granite or some cinder block thing, right?
Yeah, granite is a lot more expensive, as you can see on Elm Street. Cape Cod berm is a fraction of the cost. And to be honest, on Beechwood, installing granite at this point where there's never been granite it'd be a challenge to try to meet the grades of everyone's driveways out there. And it would also be a problem for drainage because granite, vertical face kind of holds back water in certain areas.
Got it.
And I think, those are all great points, Brian, as we start to think about the future and roadways that roadways that don't currently now have a sidewalk, or areas that there's a sidewalk and we think maybe there should be some curbing in there. Physically, sometimes it just can't happen. If you got to move the drainage for whatever reason, you've got to match the up and down of the driveways that come in. There are many challenges that go along with that. So obviously the Cape Cod berm technique is significantly more cost effective than going with full granite, etc. So things we need to think about moving forward. Paul, I see you have your hands raised there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Question for Brian. Brian, have we given any thought to the connectivity for the sidewalks as we're doing pond? Is from, say, 3A at least up to connect to the sidewalk in front of the school?
So there is existing sidewalk from, I think it's called Buttonwood, the one where there's a piece missing. It's right next to that car shop that's at the corner of Pond and 3A.
Yeah.
So no, that section, we'd be paving what's there, but we could, when we get to the point of paving and meeting the contractor out there, we can probably see how we can better delineate that, that section of sidewalk. We also need to look at the property lines. It's kind of a grandfathered in building,
Yeah.
and the structure is so close to the street. I'm not exactly sure offhand where the property line sits, and if part of that walking path is on private property or if it's public.
Okay.
But the rest of
reason I'm asking, I'm sorry. No, please go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was saying the rest of it's just kind of bituminous. It goes up that side of the street. It does a crosswalk by Clay Spring, and then it's kind of a large grassy, hilly area separating the sidewalk. It follows the field in front of the school and then goes that way.
All right, because that leads me to my second one, is like connecting again King Street to 3A. Potential for a crosswalk for the kids to, that live on that side of the road.
I'm gonna get to that in a little bit. Yeah.
All right. So
I was gonna get to that in a little bit. Yep.
All right.
No, great point. All right. Any questions on and Brian, that pretty much kills the DPW budget or the town budget with Elm Street and these projects, right? I mean, that seems like the money is already allocated for the calendar year 2023 with the projects you just mentioned.
Yes. Yeah. And then, next year we're going to have to, with the piece of South Main Street, there's a small portion of, relative to the whole length, there's a small portion of water main that needs to be done.
Yeah.
And, when we get those figures together, we'll probably go to the next annual town meeting for those, additional funds.
Right. Okay. Any questions on the paving sidewalk plan for calendar year 23? Okay.
It's Julie. I do have one question. When Bob mentioned, or Bob was asking about the curbed sidewalk versus a ride up on the sidewalk type situation on Beechwood, it made me wonder if his question was related to safety. And I wondered about, I realize it's the most cost effective not to do a proper sidewalk along Beechwood, but how expensive are guardrails in certain sections? Would we be smart to think about installing guardrails in certain sections to protect pedestrians, families, kids, elderly, everyone using the sidewalk on Beechwood from cars that are driving really quickly on that road?
It's a good question. I mean, there are guardrails. The issue we're running into is guardrails, it probably takes up really a foot to 18 inches and some of width. So when you have a narrow sidewalk as it is, whether it's ledge or property line or something like that, we're trying to get the ADA minimum 4 feet of walkway. So add another, say 1 to 2 feet of width just to get that guardrail, or, so it's really a width question. And I think we could do it on a case by, I walked it last week and there's plenty of width. So the section of Beechwood that we're going to be paving is from Mill Lane to basically King Street down by Shaw's. And the width of that entire sidewalk, with the exception of one corner, is got plenty of width where we could go even 4, maybe even 5 feet with a nice grass strip. There's just a corner kind of closer to ox pasture that's tight, and it's tight relative. When you're looking down it visually, it looks tight, but it's really not. When you're walking it, you have almost 4 feet there. And I think when we cut back the landscaping and make it a little wider with a higher curbing, bituminous curb, it's a lot of room. As far as pedestrian path, I think when we do Beechwood section going towards from Mill Lane towards the ballpark, that's kind of really, we get into some challenging tight situations. There's one down by, I think it's Rivershed or Riverview Drive, that's it's only like 1 or 2 feet near a hedge there. That's really tight. So, but I think, guardrail's a good choice if you have the width, and if you don't have the width, we need to figure out, can we take more width either out of frontages or, shift the road over.
And would it be more cost effective per square foot as opposed to a proper sidewalk with the curb?
So what, let me send, just so you guys have it, our MAPC, there's a 1,000 different ways you can design a road, and our contract has about 110 different bid items. So it's got guardrail in there, it's got curbing of all sorts of types. So from expensive curbing, you have granite at the top of the list, and then there's concrete, and then you have a bituminous, either a loaf berm like you see on Ripley Road, or a Cape Cod perm like you see on North Main Street and other places. And that's kind of in order of like priciest to least price.
Okay.
But this, if you look at the bid items, you can kind of get a sense of pricing, and it's either usually per linear foot or square yardage or tonnage or something like that. So let me send that around just so you guys have it, and at least you can get a semblance of price. And if you have any more questions, we can go from there.
Okay.
Brian, what do we have on Church Street? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Church.
Yeah, what's that curbing that flows up? I'm just thinking continuity, that's all.
So Church, I mean, I don't think there's any granite up there. I think it's probably just a little strip of either grass or dirt between in front of the old Beechwood Church. It may
I was
be,
talking about kind of the berm that you built up, like you were talking about on Beechwood, that's all.
yeah, I would say
Like
it's all.
All right, that's what I was, so that's what we're planning on Beechwood right now.
Yeah, generally, and just this is just generally speaking, our granite curbing is confined to the village area and going,
Yeah.
Elm towards the harbor and maybe a few other like small sections around town. Generally, everything outside of the downtown area is all either Cape Cod berm or, grass strip or nothing.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking continuity, that's all, because going from one into Church to Beechwood, I don't think it's a bad look. And I was thinking what Julie just said about guardrails, maybe too. So I was just throwing that, so some things popped into my head, that's all.
Sure.
Yep. And I think this is a great discussion and a lot of good points. I think what it would be really helpful is, since using this example of Beechwood, that if it is it looks like it's going to be a 2024 project, and I'm sure the Brian contractor wants to get a bid, or we all want to get a price on it, is what I wanted to do in some of the moving forward is to maybe dedicate one of the committee members to work on that particular roadway, to kind of look at some of the different measures that could be done in place. Maybe there's a 30-foot stretch where there is a bad part of the roadway, and then maybe there should be a guardrail there for that 20 or 30 feet, or maybe there could be a different type of a curbing for a little very small stretch versus the entire roadway. So just ways to get creative on the roadway, and not just say, we're going to do Cape Cod berm the whole way. Again, maybe there are little areas where there can be a little bit of a variancy in the type of curbing that's there. So, if that's a 2024 project, Brian, so when would we have to kind of know, or the contractor would have to know, if this was a 2024, what exactly, if there was a little alteration from a Cape Cod berm 100% of the way, when would that contractor need to know that by? Did I lose you, Brian? You're on mute.
Sorry, trouble getting off mute. So we go through those specifics when we walk the site, probably a couple of months prior to paving.
Okay.
So we would probably do that on Beechwood, late winter, and then get it lined up for spring, summer.
Okay. So, I mean, my recommendation is to have a committee member kind of tag along on that, and we can dedicate someone later on to kind of help out and lend a helping hand, hopefully a helping hand, and be a little vocal in that, or maybe make a recommendation along the way.
I like that idea, Jay. If Brian's open to that.
Yeah.
For someone from our committee to join.
The more the merrier.
Be careful what you wish for, Brian.
Yeah, Brian. You don't want too many cooks in the kitchen, Brian.
Yeah.
Designed by committee, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we'll allocate one individual. So the next item of business we have is the setting of criteria for the roadway and sidewalk for future use. I have not received any comments to this. I'm going to quickly share my screen here, and hopefully it works. And hopefully you can see can you see my screen?
Yes.
Can you see the sidewalk prioritization?
Yes.
All right, so that's the latest. And again, I will send this around as we jump into the next thing here about prioritization of sidewalks, etc. Think about really how it all fits in. We have developing a 1 mile radius of the schools, as this is not number 1, 2. These are no particular order, although we seem to be focusing in on the schools, the townwide connectivity, addressing the ADA ramps, etc., sidewalks to recreational areas, creating safety measures, etc. We cannot set a speed limit in town, but we did talk about the painting of bike lanes and walk lanes, and then addressing the needs of the town's consultant 2022 report. So I would jump back to our agenda and say that if anybody has any comments or wants to make any recommendations to any of that criteria, please let me know. So which really
you
leaves
want
us now, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Do you want it in writing? I mean, right off the
Y-
bat, because I mean, I've formulated some, but I haven't put it in writing yet. Is where I
Yeah,
think some of the key issues by the schools are.
you can either put it in writing or just give me a call offline, Paul. I don't want to,
All right.
as much as I want to take up the time now, I want to
Nope,
really
that's fine.
focus in on the next item, but let's talk offline about that. But I'm happy to take those comments and any others as well.
Fantastic. Thanks.
Because that will basically, the setting of the criteria leads us into this report, which we need to start to put together for the select board. But so, yeah, next item of business on the agenda is the paving and sidewalk prioritization. As we have, we've been kind of, we've been at this for, I don't know, 3-4 months now, and I appreciate everybody's time. But it's also time to really kick this up a notch here over the next month or so. And as I understand, the select board is asking for our report, not our final report, but recommendations in a report on what the prioritization should be for like a 3 to 5 year plan. And I know I've shared with you the DPW paving plan. I think that goes out about 10 years. A couple of committee members had very, very roughly drafted a sidewalk plan, which I'll share in a minute. But this is really the time in the next month or so here where we really need to, and we can talk about maybe divvying up the town a little bit and everybody taking a little quadrant and looking and saying, yes, these are roadways and sidewalks, whether they exist or not, that need attention within the town. And I hate to say, forget about costs, but forget about cost for a little bit. Now, let's not get crazy and say the whole town, every sidewalk, every road in the town needs a sidewalk, because they probably do, but we realize that's not going to happen. So in reality, what areas of town where the sidewalks are in really rough shape, and or other areas of town where you drive by and you go, someone's going to get killed, and I don't even know why there's not a sidewalk here. It's a short area of distance, and there needs to be a sidewalk. So that is what we really need to do as a committee here over the next month or so. I know that the select board is going in front of, going to be going to town hall with a big ask. I think if you've been following the ball fields and the asks there of the several $1 million for Deer Hill and other areas, which I hopefully goes through, because I think it's long overdue, much needed, and it's the same thing here with sidewalks. So, Paul, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I will here. What is the ask exactly from the select board, from this committee within like the next month, so that as a select board, one of the 5 select board members, you have something to go in front of town meeting with, which I guess is in October now, which has been pushed up. What is the ask of this board or this committee that you need from us?
Well, Brian supplied a lot of it with this, and the committee already has with the roads and paving plan. I mean, it's all subject to readjustment as we go. But, when we do ask, we're asking obviously to increase the budget for roads and sidewalks up to about, I think we get 200,000, and we're going to ask another 8 of the town. That'd be a yearly plan, not just, it's not just a one-off. So I think what we want
we'd have a budget. So the budget would go from roughly 1 million to about 1.6, 1.7 million a year.
We're hoping, what I'm getting is just about 1 million a year. And Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're looking at a yearly budget of 1 million instead of what's been allocated prior to, and I think that was about 300,000 all in, give or take. And Brian, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but so I think what we want to present is I think that the sidewalks, we've got the paving plan so far, so good. We're showing some action on Elm Street. That's the important thing when we come up to the meetings, and Brian's getting paved, the Cushing, the Smith, and the other areas. So what we want to be able to do is justify that ask.
Okay.
In every way, manner, form. So the sidewalks, for instance, I think the sidewalks are going to be a key component. I really do. because safety seems to be paramount and people are asking, is that all you're going to ask for? What else? So we want to try to bundle everything, and that includes roads, sidewalks, so people are getting hit. So we're not cherry picking each year. So I
Okay.
think sidewalks, especially in this ask, are going to be a key component, because I think Brian's got the paving plan pretty well ironed down, and and the committee does as well. And again, it's not something we can't readjust as we did with, like, say, Elm or South Main as that comes up. But I think the safety and connectivity are going to be big, and I think that'll meet with some favorable reaction, because we want to go public with it prior to, obviously.
So having like a 3 to 5 year prioritization plan for sidewalks and roadways is what the ask, basically.
I would think that would be a good thing to have, because again, I'll defer to Brian on this, but we talked about it in this group, is that once we have something in place and we've accomplished our goal, it will take some years, but it's hopeful that the maintenance plan will go down, because we've allowed so many things to be deferred year after year. And I throw, say, South Main into that mix, and I throw Elm into the mix, because we spent a lot of time on committees and all that stuff. So, that's one thing off the board, which is a plus.
Right. Okay. So again, having heard that, this is really, and again, as I said before, I'd like to not totally abolish this committee in a few more months, but I don't feel the need to meet once every 2 weeks, and maybe we can meet once a month, or maybe even once every other month after we get through this next month and a half push here and put this little report together. And maybe we kind of regroup in the springtime again, once a month as the paving season starts, and start to work on some of these projects, and have committee members, assigned to different projects like Beechwood, et cetera, moving forward. So, having said that, I'm going to share my screen again and try and share the screen here. I want to pull up the paving plan. Can you see the paving plan?
Yes.
Okay. So I just started to highlight some of these things. And again, this goes out to 2030. So it basically goes out over the next 10 years, and there are cost figures here. What surprisingly, and Brian, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the estimated cost, the actual, aside from Elm Street, which actually Elm Street is probably going to come in right on the nose now with the sidewalks, is that these estimates outside of Elm Street were probably about double the actual cost of construction. I think that Atlantic and Margin was going to be done for like $275,000, and not the combined $600,000. So the actual costs are about little less than 50% of the estimated cost. So that was a positive. And so what I tried to do here, as you can see, and again, I don't necessarily need to get into it today, because we could probably sit here all afternoon and look at this. But, we look at the 2023 plan, and okay, so look at 2022. These projects are pretty much, Pond Street will be done. The 2023, the Mill Lane and Beechwood project will be done, will be pushed off to 2024. Elm Street is being done, and then Smith, Cushion, Atlantic, and Margin. And so just to step back from the village, almost the downtown area, a little past downtown where Elm Street starts, is going to now be a smooth patch all the way down Elm, around the Triangle, down by the Oaks, down by the Yacht Club, and then all the way down to Whitehead. That'll be a significant, nice, smooth path moving forward. We've already, in the green, moving down to 2024 and 2025, we picked off Doane Street and Church Street, portions of those, not all of them, but we've picked them off a little bit. And so I really just want you to start to think about these other areas here for 2024, 2025, 2026, etc. Beechwood's on there again. I know Brian's talked about South Main. Which of these roads really are in dire needs that need to get done. And I think this is a pretty good plan, looking at it. 2027, you kind of jump into the village areas, Linden 2028, and then you kind of all over the place here with 2030. But are there roadways that you feel that are on this list that really stay on the list and either move up a year or kind of stay where they are? And there's always going to be one or two roads that move up or move back for whatever reason, as we're seeing now with Elm and Beechwood, etc. Or there are roadways that you don't see on this list in the next 5-year plan and go, why isn't that road on this plan? So that is the ask of everybody. And the same thing kind of goes with the sidewalks. And I'm going to just let me vent for a little bit here on the sidewalks. This was a plan, a very, very rough draft plan that is by no means written in stone. It was a rough draft that a committee member had put forward. And I like it because it gives the actual length, so you can calculate a rough cost as associated with that. But these are just, this is something that I feel that this committee needs to push out until about 2028 down here. And so this is kind of like the somewhat of the wish list, or what roads need to be done, what sidewalks need to be done. And maybe some of these areas there aren't really necessarily sidewalks, and it's all over town. It's all over the place. And then I think, Bob, you had put this together, another list here as far as what was within the scope and what was not within the scope, and all the roadways, et cetera, et cetera. So I know I just kind of said a lot there. I'll take a step back and see if anybody has any comments to all this. And what I think what would be helpful is that we break the town up. And I feel like this is the only way it's going to get done. We break the town up into, everyone takes a little piece. And prior to next week's meeting, that you look at your piece and you look at the existing roadways and the existing sidewalks or lack thereof, and come back and report out next week. And you can do it in writing in advance on the conditions of your area. Does that sound okay with this group?
Yeah, sounds good. I've put together a short list of additions that I want, but I can save them for an email and just send them out before next meeting rather than talking to them now.
I'll do the same.
That's fine with me, Jay. I like the idea of breaking the town up into sections. It's a small town, relatively speaking, but there are some parts of town that I'm more familiar with than others. And if you live in a particular area of town, like for example, if Frank lives where he lives, he's going to know most intimately what his neighborhood needs because of what he sees every day. So I like the idea of breaking it up.
Okay. All right, so let's break it up. And Frank had put together, I think Frank put this together, was one of the radii. It was the best one I could find. I probably could have got a better one. Hold on here. And because I could draw on this. This was easier, and I'm sure there was a better one that got a bigger picture of the town. Frank, if you have a bigger one, feel free to share that or not. I don't know if
You're straight at the moment. Yeah.
What's that?
It's not showing yet.
Not showing?
No.
Says you're sharing, but it doesn't show anything.
All right, let me stop sharing. I hate Zoom. I'm a Teams guy. All right. How about now?
No.
No,
Sorry.
I can share. Which one are you pulling up? I have them all on my computer here.
Yeah, Frank, what I was trying to do is share the school, the half-mile radius.
Okay.
But the one, I think maybe the 1 mile radius got a bigger, maybe that showed the town a little more. Basically, just town that I draw on, and that way it could beat up as opposed to saying somebody else, you take this.
Yeah,
I
I'll be
can
sure.
actually draw on it.
I'm gonna try to share here. I've never shared in Zoom before, so bear with me. Is
Yeah.
it?
Yep.
See it?
That's exactly what I was trying to share.
Okay.
So the good thing about that is you can draw on that plan. I don't know if you can draw on it, but on
Yeah, I can. I got a comment and then I can mark up, I think. Yep.
okay. So if we have so we'll take Paul, Frank, Bob, Julie, and myself here. We'll let Brian off the hook unless he wants to be part of this. And
He's got the whole town.
yeah, we'll report back to Brian.
So just one thing I'd mention on this, this is a great graphic, but you know, the policy as far as busing goes for the school, if I'm correct, is a mile. So if you're inside of a mile, you don't pay for, no, you do pay for busing, because I think
it's 2 miles. It's 2 miles.
Is it 2 miles?
Yeah, it's 2 miles.
Okay, because I think I was just about a mile, but at any rate, I don't know if the intent was that if you're close enough, you're gonna walk it. If you're far away, then you don't need to pay for it.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. I just had the half-mile radius here because I know, Frank, I think you put it together for the 1 mile as well, but all I was trying to get was just a depiction of, yeah, there you go, of trying to break up the town. So let's try and break this up reasonably. And I know that it doesn't get a lot of the Beechwood area. I think the other graph looked a little better, Frank, the half mile. Yeah. So let's try and break this up. Let's start with some of the easy stuff. If you go over to Forest Ave, see Forest Ave?
Yep.
Yeah. If you want to take like coming in from Hingham along Chief Justice, if you want to draw, oh, there you go. Yeah, that's better.
Let me see.
Yeah.
I think I can, because we don't need these circles for this. No, never mind. They're not in this. Wow. Okay, I'll work with this one. So
If you just kind of take like all of the, we'll start, this will be a somewhat easy one, on North Cohasset. If you start over by like the train station, you know where the train station is up on the, over that way, a little more left, you know, right about there. And then bring it all the way down 3A and then up Forest Ave. And then just draw a square right there. Yep. If you can even draw a square, that's fine. I will take that little area, and I'm happy to take more. If you could write a little J in there, is that possible? There we go. Okay. So again, you know, I'm happy to take more because there's really not a lot over there. I just wanted to get the logistics of this out of the, kind of get it going here. So I'm happy to take that area, and I'm happy to take more. But let's jump to Julie, because I know you're over on the, I guess I always screw this up with the kind of Pond Street area, but what area would you like to take here, Julie? Maybe like a Beechwood over?
Yeah, Beechwood over, Beechwood, King Street, Pond Street to 3A. Is that an area?
Okay, yeah,
I'm
so
having a hard
maybe
time
from like,
seeing that.
maybe starting at Shaw's, Frank?
Sure.
And then coming like all the way down, and you know, the I don't know if you want to cross 3A. I think you probably want to
Yeah,
stay,
right.
basically everything on the other side of 3A.
Oh, God.
something like that.
Oh, God, Julie, careful what you wish for.
Yeah, well, we can task Tori with some of this.
Well, I just texted Tori and I told her what we're doing, and I'm gonna ask her, can we give you a section? And I think we should give her a section.
All right, how about if we Julie and Tori? How's that?
I love it.
Julie, Tori mix, and it's basically, and Frank, let's make that square bigger if we can. It's basically everything on the other side of 3A. From King Street all the way down, I don't think we go past Beechwood, right? It's Beechwood, but that encompasses like Church and Doan and up in that little neck of the woods.
Yeah, I guess that's right there, right? Yeah. How's that look?
Looks great.
I hope Tori says
Hey,
All right.
before next week.
Well, it would be great. And then just a kind of a rough plan. And again, this is not like you need to go visit every street, right? It's like, okay, you can do a little drive by looking. There are just some roads that look, there's just never going to be, it just does not need a sidewalk. Like I'll take for an example, even though it's right across from the school, Fair Oaks up in that little cul-de-sac?
Yeah.
Yep.
In my view, I don't know. The only people that are in that area, this is my personal view, are people that live in that area. You're not out for a Sunday morning cruise or
No, it's
you're not,
not
the people that live in that area. I don't feel the need that there needs to be a sidewalk in there, even though it's right there across the street from the school. There's a sidewalk once you get to Sawyer Street. There's a sidewalk to nowhere, and then there's the sidewalk to the school and to town. So I think sidewalks are covered. So like that, Linden Circle is another area. Nobody's going up in there unless they're looking to buy a house. I don't think we need, heavy duty sidewalks, etc. I think what really is the big lift here is the village. So we've got 3 left. We've got Frank, Paul, and Bob. Frank, since you're
Okay.
manning
I could do, say, Ripley to Pond, because I know the roads and I know, but Frank's up in that area as well. So I don't want to, but Ripley, say Pleasant Street, from Smith Place. So it's kind of all along and go down to the end of Pond. I know all the, Oak, Norfolk and Pleasant are going to be the ones that are going to require some sidewalk attention. They do have sidewalk, a lot of connectivity. Pleasant's probably going to be the biggest lift.
So I'm looking at that little grid there. That looks like Sawyer Street over to Pond Street from 3A to what road is that?
This is Ripley, and then this is
Cushing.
Okay. I think
Yeah.
this is Cushing. There's a road.
All right. Okay, Paul, you want to tackle that?
Yeah, that's a big block radius near where I am.
Yeah, it is.
Frank, I have a question about the Julie Torrey section.
Yep.
So on one side, it's basically Shaw's to, I was thinking to Stop and Shop, but does it go beyond Stop and Shop? What is
It
that?
does, but there's really nothing over there. Like, this is that sports
Yeah.
complex, and it could be, or no, this is the sports complex, and then this is the preserve. So there's nothing there essentially. But
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not going over to Hingham Lumber and.
No. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, good. Yeah. I think it's really just to where King Street comes into Stop and Shop.
Okay, Stop and Shop, and then it goes down. What's this line along the backside here? What would be what are I guess I'm wondering what the perimeters are here. What are the outside streets that I need to make sure are included in the area? So it's along 3A Stop and Shop to Shaw's, and then it's beyond Beechwood. So it's not Beechwood, but past Beechwood.
yeah, I guess the dead ends and cul-de-sacs off of Beechwood. It's like,
Oh, yeah,
that's into the
okay,
ball field.
okay.
Yeah, to
This
the
is the
ball
church
field, and
then.
then the road as the road goes up. What's that? Dome goes up to the Situate line.
Yep, okay.
And then just any little, any little cul-de-sac off and on, roadways off as a sidebar of that.
Okay, and what is it at the bottom? It says Summer Street. What is that? Is that,
That's Situate's version
that's
of
Situate?
church, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so where am I going to? I'm not
Just to
gonna-
the Situate line,
Just to that Situate
Yeah,
line
where
where
the
it
building
says Summer.
stop.
which
Got it.
has been, I think it's been paved to, so you'll see with a line with a where the paving stops. That's,
Yeah, it looks great. It's very distinct. Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that work's already been done for you.
yeah, very good.
So I don't know if you can make that triangle or square a little different for Julie and Tori to
Yeah,
come
I can
back. to
take this
stop
stuff
them.
out because there's effectively nothing over here. Like, we're not gonna map preserve, right? So stop and
Right.
shop.
Yeah,
There's
Yeah,
nothing
okay.
here, but
Perfect.
yeah, bring that in a
this
little
Okay.
stuff probably is included. But if I drag it out, it'll include more of Situate that doesn't need to be there, but.
Right. Okay, cool. And then Frank, you're
Yeah.
sending this out after the meeting at
Yes.
some point, right? So I can print it out and use it. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
bit. All right. Frank and Bob left here. If either one of you have a little area, and again, I can take more of that area that goes along Jerusalem, because there's really not much over there. You've got Wheelwright Park. But if somebody wants to, I think what we're looking at now is all of like North Main Street, Elm Street, out to the Salt House, all that whole area there, and then
Yeah, I can
one
take
other.
the eastern part here, so I guess downtown and Harbor looping around, Margin, Atlantic, and then down Beach.
Yeah, so you want to take right, oh yeah, right there, and then go. I think that's Jerusalem Road.
This part's Atlantic, right? And
Yeah.
then this is Beach back down, so I can take that. How's it look? And then, I don't know, it's a lot for Bob if that's what's left. So I
Well,
can
the other
strip it down a
area,
little further.
there's south of like South Main Street, really. How far down? Like
Yeah,
by
the
the,
Situate border's kind of open.
Yeah,
right.
true. Okay, then I could strip, well, that's kind of a lot. Let me see.
Well, I don't, I'm happy to take like that South Main bit too, because I think, like Jay said, off of Jerusalem, right on the coast, there's not going to be a lot of sidewalk necessity.
All right, so why don't can you move, bring me over to North Main Street, over to like where I think it's Jerusalem, goes down again over.
Where Jerusalem comes in,
yeah.
so like.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I can add a corner to this, but I can drag it over, sort of.
Yeah, and then drag the other corner to so that's Jerusalem only.
Yep,
All right.
and I can fix this.
Okay.
I think we get
Yeah.
the idea.
All right. And then Frank, if you want to take from that, like from Jerusalem all the way over to like the old Salt House.
Sure.
And then kind of come back through. I don't know which would come down Summer, down by. Come down Summer or come down Elm, either or.
Come down Summer and then back up here.
Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, a lot of those I assume are not, like, I don't know, we're gonna put a sidewalk on Whitehead and these dead ends, so it's
No.
not as much as it looks like.
Yeah. And then Bob will have for like kind of like South Main Street south, all to the Situate border, from all of going down to the Situate border, wherever that is. Down 3A. Yep. And wherever the Situate border is, just call it that whole area.
Well, let me
Yeah,
scroll.
sounds good.
Did you have mechanical drawing in school, Frank?
All the way back in high school, but
You're doing a pretty good job of this.
forgot most of it.
Yeah, you are.
All right.
And that's Bob. Yep. Okay. And then we've got Frank in there. All right. So everybody kind of knows the borders.
Yep.
And I think you can blow. So Frank, if you could share this with everybody, save that and
Yep.
share that with everybody, that would be great.
Will do.
And so again, this is huge. I'd like to have another. I'm going on vacation actually starting tomorrow, but I've circled in Tuesday as a day to get some work done. Can we reconvene here next Tuesday, the 22nd? with a kind of a draft of, does that work on everyone's schedule? The 22nd next week at either 11:30 or 12 o'clock?
12 o'clock would be good.
All right,
Works for me.
all right, let's do 12 p.m.
Good for me.
on the 22nd. And so let me just share a little bit here again. Hopefully it shares this time. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So keeping in mind two things, as we now have our quadrants or our areas of town that we're going to focus in on, as we start to look at that, let's look at, see if in fact your areas of town are depicted on this paving plan. And if there's a roadway that's not on your on this paving plan, because there's probably going to be roadways that are not on this paving plan, the question is whether or not it needs to be done, or you feel that it needs to be done in the next 3 to 5 years here. Is it in that bad shape that for whatever reason it's not on the paving plan? And if the road's in good shape, then you don't even have to, just don't even note it, just keep on going. And then let's try and do something similar to like the sidewalk, okay? If there's a particular, and again, this was drafted by a member that's no longer a member anymore. But if there is a particular street, just note the street and then note the actual area from what point to what point, if there's a house number or a street, and then don't worry so much about the length. If you have the length and you can figure that out, then great. And don't worry about the cost. But really it's the from what point to what point, and then what street. And then, in your estimation, what is the dire needs here? Should that be done in the next, 3, 4, 5 years? And again, there's no guarantee that all this is going to get done, but that's the ask that we've been asked to do, is put this together and come up with a plan in a perfect world. So everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
All right. I think this is a good step moving forward. And so if people can, drive around town in the next week or so, give or take, and kind of focus in on some areas and come back if you want to put together a paragraph or two, or come up with your own little spreadsheet in advance of the meeting next Tuesday, by all means, shoot it to me or shoot it to the whole group. We're not deliberating on anything. We're just sharing information. So if people want to, even if we want to come up with a master list, by all means, if somebody wants to start that, we can add to that as well. Let's do that. So that'll be the to-do for next week. Okay. I know we had until 1 o'clock, but I have to run in a little bit. Anything else that we missed? Anybody want to talk about anything?
Nope, I'm good because I've got to stop myself.
Okay. All right. Any last comments? We have our to-dos. We have a meeting next Tuesday. Julie, can you communicate with Tori on the task?
Yes, I will.
Right. I'll shoot her a text as well.
Okay.
All right.
Carol, do you need me to remind you Friday morning about posting next week's meeting, or are you good?
Carol, you are good with that? You're on mute.
Yeah.
Can we just I'll send you an agenda, but Tuesday at noontime.
As soon as I get the agenda, I'll post.
Okay.
I'll send it over
throw
for them to
something together
post.
this afternoon. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, everyone. We'll see you next week. Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right. Thanks all. And Frank, send that to the group if you don't mind, that our to-dos. Thank you.
Yes.
All right. See you all next
Thanks,
week.
guys.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.